presentation by Mr. Riley. And I would like to, right now, just take attendance. I know it's a little warm in here. And I'll have our majority council take attendance right now, of at least the Audit and Finance Committee.
Willingham,
Present.
Reedy, Clay, and Grimm are excused. Camisso,
Here.
Kamalowitz,
Here.
Ray Joyce, Lakakis,
Yes.
and Bergbar.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. I would also like to recognize, let's see, he's our chair lady, Ms. Cunningham, our minority leader, Mr. Moriello. Let's see, Ms. LaWilliard. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss anyone.
Jennifer Whalen.
Okay, Ms. Lockhart. I'm just going down a list right here. Everything's in alphabetical order, okay? Mr. Mayo, let's see. I think Ms. McLaughlin is online watching. Let me see. Mr. Miller is here. Ms. Peddle is here. Ms. Foster is here, present. Mr. Picard is here. Let's see. Ms. Rosano is here. And Ms. Wade is here. If I missed anyone's name, you can say now. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're going to move forward with this. Again, I just want to, yes.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just would like to say something before you got started.
You want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I finish
just,
saying? Wait. Can I? No. Let me say something.
You
first. Okay, let me
say
finish.
it. Absolutely. I'm sorry to have
All right.
disturbed you.
Okay, I just want everyone to understand this presentation by our Dave Riley. Also, we have the Deputy County Executive here, which is Mr. Michael McLaughlin, okay? And that this presentation, I also see that Ms. Rizzo is here. I'm sorry, Sue, I didn't see you over there. Our county control. And so I just want you to remember this. This is not a presentation detailed by every single agency. Tonight, this is the presentation from the Office of Department of Management and Budget, and that is by Mr. Riley, okay? And so, now, you want to make a statement?
Well, no, I just wanted to make it, maybe it's an observation. I just got a set of rules here. And it seems to me that we are changing dramatically.
Hold on a second.
Changing dramatically the role of the Audit and Finance Committee members by limiting them to 3 minutes on any given meeting. And I got to be honest with you, I don't think that serves us well in the county. If we're worried about having quick meetings, we shouldn't be. If we have 6 departments in and people have questions and it's going to take 3 hours in an $809 million budget, we should be able to ask questions. But this bit about you can only ask a commissioner for clarification. You may hear something in the course of someone's presentation that you may have questions on. How it impacts the county, how it impacts follow-up, what the ramifications are. Under this format, you can't answer those questions. So, I gotta tell you, I've been a big participant in the budget process before, and I think this is a major change for the worse that limits transparency, because all it is the commissioners coming in and giving you what they think about their budget without hearing we as a legislature, without having an opportunity to amply express our concerns.
Okay, so,
I have submitted questions in the
okay,
past,
and I
and
appreciate that.
sometimes they've been successful, other
And
times
I
not.
appreciate that, Mr. Bergdorf, but the one thing that this does say, it says maximum 3-minute question limit. Okay, there's a difference between a question and actually providing comments. okay? And so that we can actually stick to, number one, sometimes people go off topic from the budget, okay? And so the idea is to maintain, number one, order, to maintain the fact that we are here to discuss the budget. There are certain things that we cannot and should not go into in regards to this whole budget process. However, that's a determination that's made based upon what the question is. And also, you know, if I feel like, you know what, that can't be aptly answered tonight, especially if it's a question where the commissioner might need to do some research on it, okay? And so I don't think that there's anything wrong with asking the question limit, the 3 minute. That means that you don't have time to, you know, comment, but it does give you an opportunity to ask your question. I'm not trying to take that away. So there's still transparency there. We do have 39 members. We do have a lot, yes, to get through, you know, and we have sat through some real budget sessions. But I think we can do this and that people can be satisfied. So why don't you wait until we get to that point where you feel like you want to express yourself with a question, okay? Or, you know, clarification. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, and I don't have a problem with that. Been able to run these meetings with no problem, and I figure we can do the same, and I've always been very generous to you, as we well know.
Without a doubt, and that's why I don't understand the reason for these rules.
This is the
Because they
reason.
do say that the question should only be on clarifications. That's what it says. So if the commissioner doesn't raise it, there's nothing to clarify.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna move on, okay? And right now, I'm going to, are you ready, Mr. Riley?
We're actually gonna start with Mr. McLaughlin.
Oh,
We'll
okay,
do
we're
a
gonna start with
kind of
Mr.
an overview of
McLaughlin
the budget,
tonight,
and then I'll
and
go
we're
into the
gonna move
revenue
on.
side of things. And
Okay,
some of
can
the
everybody
budget
hear
issues.
me? You can, I'm not talking loud.
No.
Let me just put it like this, I can hear myself very well. Okay, so we're going to ask Mr. Michael McLaughlin. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna ask you to begin the presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you to Chairwoman Joanne Cunningham, legislators, colleagues, and friends. It's been a while since I sat before you like I used to on a regular basis. Cam Sagan stole my job, and I think people prefer him in it anyway. So it's good to be back. Thanks for having us. In many ways, this budget gives everybody a view into our new normal here in Albany County. The COVID pandemic changed many of our operating norms, forcing us to get smarter in terms of how we recruit and retain workers, structure departments, and even make investments in our community. This budget is a 2.9% increase over the adopted budget of 2024. Approximately $847 million in operating expenses, not counting interfund transfers. A large portion of this increase is due to the fact that 17 out of 19 bargaining units have been settled at higher rates to provide more fairness to our union workers. The non-union workers all received a 3% cost of living increase unless certain circumstances such as increased responsibilities or changing workload dictated otherwise. Our workforce isn't the only area of the budget to grow. Just like each and every one of us, the county has to pay increased costs for all goods and services, and this is reflected across all departments. These increases are not outsized. Our effective tax rate is being reduced by 3.75% from 2024. It's going from 2.8378, need another decimal point, to 2.713 per $1,000 in equalized value in real estate. The most updated numbers from NISAC last had us at the 11th lowest effective tax rate among counties in New York. This should put us and this change, this reduction, should put us in the top 10, even with a slight increase to the tax levy. To state things simply, our increase to the levy was proportionally smaller than the growth in real estate value in the county, reducing the burden to the average taxpayer. There will be slight discrepancies based on which municipality a tax parcel is located in, but these are factors out of our control as these decisions are made by each individual municipal assessor and how they choose to apportion taxes out. So getting to the highlights, the Sustainable Technology and Green Energy Act funding is budgeted for an additional $3 million in 2025, bringing the total since inception to $13 million. This money has helped to retain and incentivize private industry to stay in, relocate to, or expand into Albany County, specifically high-tech and green industries. The STAGE Act is administered by the Advanced Albany County Alliance. This budget continues to provide base operational funding to the Alliance while more permanent continued revenue streams are realized. Our updated hotel occupancy tax, once implemented, will also go a long way towards ensuring that the Alliance will be self-sufficient in the near future. Seed money for a housing trust is also included in this budget. This is intended to be a partnership with the legislature to help our most vulnerable citizens guarantee one of the most basic human rights, safe and affordable housing. A workforce development initiative is funded as well. This will be a partnership with Hudson Valley Community College and will have benefits for both the county workforce as well as the citizens of Albany County in general. This budget does not include any tricks or gimmicks like shifting future revenues to the current year. In fact, the budget proposes increases to two of our reserves, our debt reserve and our capital projects reserve will each be increased by $10 million. We've been able to avoid bonding for capital projects for the past 2 years, and increasing these reserves will help ensure the longer-term stability of the county by reducing the debt load going forward. Sometimes it's nice to have a boring budget, but at this point, I'll turn things over to a man who never finds budgets to be boring, my colleague, Commissioner David Riley, to continue.
Thank you, Mike. We'll go a little more into the numbers than Mike on the policy there. So we'll kind of go with the traditional format that I've done the past few years of a slideshow. I think most of you have in front of you, as well as on the screen here. We'll kind of walk through it with some added detail from my points, and then kind of open it up to questions, I guess. All right, so the 2025 executive budget has total revenues of $752 million. We get the comparisons to previous years here, combined with a levy of $101,747,295 for a total of just over $854 million. The increase of the levy from $99.75 million is just under 2% year over year, and this has been our first increase to the levy since 2022. This keeps us below the tax cap and below the minimum or the maximum increase that we could have taken. Total growth in revenue is $42 million, or about 5.18%. That brings us to the third slide here. This is the same numbers as the previous, just broken up into more categories. This is the very convoluted tax cap calculation promulgated by Comptroller DiNapoli. He didn't come up with it. I believe it was actually former Governor Cuomo that did. But this kind of confusing formula is much easier if we just put it into Excel, because we all know that format better. Basically, what you're doing is you're taking your previous year tax cap filing, which would be your levy from the previous year. You have to factor in the tax base growth factor, which is pushed out by New York State. Every county has a different percentage-based number there. You take your pilots that were receivable the previous year, multiplied by your allowable levy growth factor, which is the lesser of inflation or 2%. That's your cap of 2 right there, where it got its name. As you can see from past years, we've had years that were below 2%. This year we were at 2%, just like the rest of the state. add back in your pilot's receivable for this year, and that gives you your available carryover. Basically what that is saying is in the last year, it didn't take the maximum allowed. A certain percentage of that can roll over year, which gives us our total levy limit before exclusions and other items of a little over $104 million. So that's as high as we could have gone. We don't have any of these adjustment factors, things like transfer of function, corrections to the retirement system, things like that. If an error had been found in our calculations in past years, it'd have to be factored into there. We're also not utilizing any specific reserves to use against the tax cap. So that basically leaves us with the same 104,050 maximum number to the proposed number that we have come up with here, the 101,750 or 747,295. See, kind of lost myself here. So yes, we stayed about $2.3 million under the maximum. And just if anybody has any questions about why they always call it the 2% tax cap, I think I kind of got into it with the carryover there. That's why sometimes you'll see in the news that a municipality was at 2.5 or 3%. One of the things that they don't like to talk about in the news, and this is a very niche subject, but the counties, if we exceed the tax cap, we can exceed the tax cap just like anyone else. It would require an extra vote. It would need to be a supermajority. The problem there, and I will get into it kind of later on, is there's a lot of state funding that we would lose at that point. Towns, cities, villages, if they have school districts, if they exceed the tax cap, there are no strings to any of their funding streams. Therefore, they don't lose funding. So we are much more incentivized to stay with that 2% than they are. So here is the property tax cap calculation. Sorry here. Yeah, so to come up with the tax rate, literally it's as simple as the amount of our levy divided out among the total equalized assessed value of properties, which sounds like a hard number to come up to, but the state actually gives us all the equalization rates for the different municipalities based on when they've last reassessed their towns, so we're all, on equal ground there. As Mike said, this tax rate is an average though. It's why we use it as a metric to show our change year over year, but it's not the greatest metric unless you know that nuance of some municipalities are gonna be a little higher, some are gonna be a little lower, and that all has to do with how they decide to apportion out their piece of the tax levy. Whether they wanna have a commercial rate and a residential rate separate, whether they just want one rate across the board. They're allowed to do whatever they want on that one. So as Mike said, last year we were at number 11 for lowest tax rate in the state. 2 years ago, so the year before that, we were at 9th, so we went up 2 points, even with our decrease. Based on what I've seen from other county releases though, I agree with Mike that either staying flat or a slight increase should get us back into the top 10 this year, which I think is quite admirable. Let's see, which one was that? All right. This gets us into sales tax. So sales tax is one of the largest inputs into the budget here. We keep 60% of these numbers, we push 40% out to our member communities. The previous 14 quarters of sales tax receipts have each been among the highest in Albany County history. Totals have kind of continued to rise year over year, but at a much more normalized rate, the last year or so compared to, back in 22 or so, when we had the big increases over 21 from COVID. So we just wrapped up the third quarter of 2024. That number came in at $94,630,120. So about $1.3 million over the third quarter of 2023, so nice little increase there. If we were to do the exact same for fourth quarter as we do for third quarter, we will beat the 2024 estimate for our sales tax by a few $1 million. So we're tracking a little heavier right now than we had forecast. Let's see. Yeah, current budget for sales tax 2024 is $365 million. This budget proposes an increase to $375.95 million. Let's see, there'll be a 3% increase. Well, this is higher than the budget for 24, as I just said. It's actually lower than, the 2024 budget is lower than we'll end 24 at. So I'm just trying to, I know I just muddled that a little bit, I'm sorry. But basically, we're still tracking up all those forecasts for the past couple of years. So not knowing the sustainability of some of these increases has led to our reluctance, as we've talked about in years past, of using some of these funds specifically for recurring expenses. Kind of when you get a one-shot revenue or, you know, a limited revenue, you don't want to put it to something that's going to keep recurring year over year. Investments into our future have been a priority for the past few years, as Mike had mentioned. Some of the bigger ones here is, as he said, a $3 million addition to the Stage Act funding, bringing that up to $13 million since the local law was passed. An additional $1 million into the County Improvement Initiative, which is paid for a variety of projects and initiatives, both from the executive side and the legislative side. Additional funding for the arts on top of last year's, the Alliance, Veteran Services, increased mental health outreach, and these have all shown positive outcomes in our community. And I think they're all great programs, so the fact that we're continuing to not only continue the project, but expand the projects is great. It also includes a continuation and finalization of the build-out of the Little Sprouts Daycare at Shaker Place, which provides fully or partially subsidized daycare to county workers depending on their income. That is your quarter by quarter growth in sales tax. This is just a different metric. We're looking at your growth year over year. Let's see here. All right, so on to slide 9. All right, so to balance out the budget, or to balance out this proposed budget, there's a usage of up to $15 million in fund balance. And I say up to, because this is the last revenue that we booked in the closing of the books, and any unspent appropriations will reduce that number, because you won't need it to balance the other side out. We tend to budget very conservatively here, especially with a line item budget. So we tend to have those unused appropriations at the end of the year. This is just a method of offsetting them to not put too much extra or additional into the fund balance year over year. So it's $15 million in this year. Thought I had it in here, it was 28 last year?
23.
23 last year, thank you, sir. Let's see. So yes, this gets into the breakout across the funds, across the revenue streams. Next two are slide 10 is a graphical version of that, just as a pie chart. Slide 11 brings us to the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement. As you can see, both in the chart and graphically, it is down a little bit a little over the last few years, but it's still above payments we received as recently as 2019. As you can see from the chart, since 2000, we've only had 2 years that came in greater than $5 million and 4 that came in below $4 million, so it's fairly stable revenue of averages out there. That is actually based on actual consumption of cigarettes sold in the county. There's a per stick price on that. And then if you want to go to the next one here, thank you, sir. Final slide here is investment income, and I know it kind of drops off precipitously there. Right on the back, you can see there's an asterisk. That does not contain the fourth quarter of 2024 in it. So basically, you can extrapolate into there and see that we're still doing great on this year. Due to rising interest rates, as well as a lot of work from the comptroller's office, when Sue came in, she had proposed a bunch of additional uses of cash balances that were basically just sitting there earning the same rate that you get on a savings account at the bank. Bond proceeds, things like that. We were able to now invest all of those under state general municipal law. So that, combined with other large cash balances like holding onto the federal stimulus, things like that, plus the higher interest rates than we'd had in years past. Last couple of years, we made a lot of money on that, and it was great. So working with our Comptroller Rizzo and her staff. Let's see. Yeah, so there will be, and is budgeted, a decrease coming into these funds. Most of that is due to the American Rescue Plan Act monies being pushed out, so I can't continue to earn 5% on those balances, sadly. Additionally, after months of expectation and waiting, kind of through the course of the whole year, the Fed recently began in their September meeting of cutting the Fed funds rate. They cut it by 50 basis points. Kind of surprised the market a little. Most people were expecting a 25 basis point cut. Over the next year or so, they're expecting potentially another 50 basis points this year and another full 100 basis points or 1% in 2025. So that will reduce the Fed funds rate down to about 3 and change, but that will still leave us, in a spot that's, all of our calculations for those estimates for the investment income play into that or take that into account. I think that's kind of all the big points.
Okay.
Do you have any
All right,
questions?
thank you, Mr. Rowley. I'm going to open up now for any questions that members may have. Yes, Mr. Demonowitz.
The fund balance.
Yep.
So did you use any of the money out of the fund balance to balance this budget?
So there, as I said, there's $15 million budgeted in of fund balance utilization. Similar to last year, though, we budgeted a use of that, but because we had leftover excess appropriations that were not spent, it's kind of a wash at the end, so we didn't take any out of it to actually run the.
There's no less in that line.
No,
And it's 3% on the sales tax you're forecasting
Yes.
as revenue?
exactly 3, yep.
Any other questions from members? Yes, Ms. Rosano.
Thank you. This is all new to me, so if this is a really dumb question, I apologize. When people have presented their budget, and they budget for a certain amount of money, and then what is projected is more, why do we give them more than what they asked for?
I'm not following.
Let me see. Somebody else can go, I can give comments.
Are you talking about like if an excess revenue is received, or?
No, like, let me see.
You're talking a department.
Right. Is that-
Department head might have asked for $1,000, and they came back in for $1,500.
Right, like, this one is special care needs, and they asked it for 39, and we gave them, proposed as 3982.
So for that particular one, if you specifically want that one, I'd have to go back and check the notes on that one.
Overall,
It could be a variety of factors. It could be the department coming back to us, as we're closer to balancing everything. We just don't roll back to the lower level to change their initial ask. It could be something coming from, say, the county executive or the deputy saying, I want to stand up an additional program or initiative there, things like that.
Could be an increase in funding from the state.
Yep.
Could be, maybe the state's increased more grant funds for a certain program, and therefore they're gonna budget more the following year. Could be, there's a lot of different moving parts from year to year that change.
thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
How much is set aside for the affordable housing?
Yes, a little over 400,000.
Okay.
Or not, right after 400,000.
Mr. Mayor, over
I was just
here.
wondering how much money was set aside for the affordable housing, the seed money for that?
You talking about when I mentioned the housing trust?
Yes.
Yes.
400,000.
Yeah, that's 400 exactly.
Yes, Mr. Bergdorf.
Dave, at this point in time, when you are presenting the budget, you're looking at a fund balance of around, is it $91 million?
It's
At
tough to
this-
give an exact, yeah.
This snapshot, because
Exactly, yeah.
what'll add to that, and bring us up closer to the 139 that we had last year, was you need to add in all the vacant line items at the end of the year that you did not
Yeah.
expend, plus whatever we go over on any revenue sources.
Yep.
Offset by whatever we went under. Can you give us, if not now, some sort of comparison over a couple of years as to how many vacant items we've turned in at the end of every year, and what the total value of those were,
So,
that component of the surplus.
so positions that were vacant for the
Yeah,
entire.
that ended up going back into a surplus.
Yeah, let me look that up for you.
And I'd like to see that, like, maybe over 3 years, the number of positions and the total value of the positions. Because I saw something unique this year that I hadn't seen before, other than in the onesies or twosies, but when we did the transactions increasing increasing pay at Shaker Place, we offset all those costs by turning in vacant lines, which I hadn't seen us do over years. So I'm kind of wondering where that piggyback is.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's something that Mr. Riley will.
Good,
I'll get it back to staff on both sides, yeah.
yes.
Okay, all right. Now, do we have any other questions from any other members? Okay, Chair Lady.
Thank you. So remind me, what is the projection for the fourth quarter for the sales tax again? What was that number? You did it real quick. Is it 95?
Yeah, no, that should be right around 95, 96 million, yep.
Okay. And my other question is, so you're the guy, you're the budget guy that hears all of the requests and works with the county exec and all of us, all the people. And budgets are always priorities. There's limited resources at the end of the day. Is there any areas that if we did have an additional X amount in sales revenue that materialized or whatnot, that you think would be wise for the county to invest in that we're not sort of there yet? Just general areas.
Well, to your point, it's prioritization, so it's all about, you as a group, as a body, have to come together and determine what the priorities are, what the values are that you want to show in that budget. So if there are things that you think are not highlighted highly enough, and you value them over something else, that's one way to look at it. But then there's other things like how conservatively I budget things. And I think I've shown over the few years I've been here that I don't just willy-nilly, like some municipalities would go and just spike a sales tax number to do whatever they need it to be to balance their budget. We always hit our estimates here. I kind of take pride in that. So if there's something that was desired, obviously there's going to be cushions built in certain places. I don't know, like, without getting into like actual details of it, I think it'd be a lot harder though to go on the abstract level.
Okay. I didn't really think you would answer it, but you sort of answered.
I have to answer something.
That's a pretty good answer for a numbers guy.
Thanks.
Okay, I like that. So, any other questions? So I'm gonna ask this question. All hearts and minds clear? Everybody's good? All right. All right, so Mr. Riley and Mr. McLaughlin, I want to thank you for your presentation this evening. And Mr. Bergdorf, have you been satisfied?
At this point, yes. That's not where I have my questions. I can call up Mr. Riley and get answers.
Okay. All right, everyone, I want to thank you for your participation tonight. And we're ready to close this meeting out. Motion to adjourn. Okay, motion. I can get a second?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, sir.
Next time.